Hello there and welcome to Bad JuJu. My name's Mama Jules and our case today takes place in Birmingham in the UK in the summer of 2020. It centres around a 3-year-old girl who is brutally beaten to death when she gets in the way of her mum's relationship with a new boyfriend. So, if you're ready, grab a tea or a coffee, get comfortable, and together we will investigate the heartbreaking case of Jayde Priest. Are you sitting comfortably? Okay then, let's begin. Jayde Priest was born on the 31st of January 2017 to 19-year-old Nicola Priest. Nicola and Kaylee lived in a 2-bedroomed 3rd-floor apartment in Kingshurst, Solihull, Birmingham in the UK. Nicola split from Kaylee's father and in late March 2020 went on to meet 21-year-old Callum Redfern from Dudley in Birmingham. By April, the relationship with Redfern was said to be quite serious, and Nicola and Callum would regularly have parties that would last well into the early hours of the morning. Callum would spend most of his time around Nicola's flat, but it appeared that the relationship was just focused on the two of them and that Kaylee was seen as a hindrance. As time went on, Callum would use Nicola's flat as a place to chill out with his friends, and they would regularly go there to smoke cannabis. Friends later testified that Callum wasn't really too keen on Nicola and was just using her for what he could get, where Nicola seemed to be besotted with him and was putting all her efforts into the relationship. Neighbours at the apartment complex expressed that on many occasions they could hear Kaylee crying in a fearful tone, and that Nicola and Callum would often be heard shouting at her, and this would be followed up by them playing loud music to drown out the sound of her crying. On another occasion, the neighbour directly below Nicola's flat heard a loud bang and heard a little girl crying, and allegedly heard Nicola say, "I'll just say that she fell off the bed." Nicola was seen on several occasions by a family friend slapping Kaylee across the legs with an open hand, and was said to speak to her with an angry tone and did not really express any love or care towards her. She said she never heard her say anything positive or kind to Kaylee. A 17-year-old who used to babysit for Nicola testified there was never any food in the kitchen and described the apartment as unkempt, and said she heard Nicola call her daughter a bitch and an effing brat and slapped her, causing her to scream and cry. Nicola was always on her phone, ignoring Kaylee. She was obsessed with social media. She often posted TikTok videos and was always on Facebook. On a TikTok video she uploaded, we can see her dancing with her daughter. This was probably the most interaction she had with her, and it was to create the illusion that she was a doting mum. As we all know, people only put on social media what they want other people to know. Nicola received universal credit, which is a state benefit paid by the UK government to single parents or those who need extra financial assistance. Callum wanted a car, so Nicola saved up £900 from her universal credit, which is about $1,400 American dollars, I think, and gave it to him. He bought a BMW with £600 of this money and pocketed the rest, telling Nicola the car was £900. However, he didn't have insurance for the car, and the week after he bought it, the police seized it and ended up crushing it. In stark contrast, Kaylee's bedroom had no carpet, there was no duvet or duvet cover, no sheets, and the mattress was filthy. There were no curtains or blinds up at the window, and there was no light bulb. It was basically just a shell. Kaylee seemed to be becoming more and more of a nuisance to the pair, and Nicola was often heard shouting at her and calling her a little rat or a bitch. In a text message between the two of them on the 24th of July, Nicola told Callum, "I'm going to kill her because she keeps leaving the living room or going in the kitchen." And in a second text she said, "I've paled her," paled is a slang word for hit, "for shitting in her nappy." Callum replied, "Good, give her one from me," to which Nicola replied back, "I will, babe." On the afternoon of the 8th of August, the two leave their flat to go to the local park. Nicola ignores her daughter as she checks herself in the mirror. It's a saddening snapshot into poor Kaylee's young life. We can see there is totally no interaction between them. Kaylee can be seen looking up at her mum, but she doesn't even once look at her, too busy looking at her appearance. Even here, the youngster has undiagnosed fractures from previous assaults, and we'll go into this later, but Nicola never sought medical help to treat her daughter's serious injuries. They leave the elevator, and she never reaches for her daughter's hand or checks that she's come out of the lift okay. After an hour's play, the toddler returns home with Nicola. Later that evening, Redfern and a friend go to the flat with a bottle of vodka. When the pair arrive, Callum, his friend and Nicola sit on the balcony and drink the vodka, and Redfern smokes cannabis. Kaylee plays with some toys, and at 7:30 p.m. she was sent to bed, and shortly afterwards Nicola and Redfern went into Nicola's bedroom to have sex. The friend stayed out on the balcony. According to the friend, Kaylee was very unsettled and kept shouting out that she wasn't tired and she wanted to play with her toys. It's not fully understood what happens next, but the friend heard Nicola's bedroom open and then shut again, and Kaylee was crying. A while later, Redfern is heard to shout, "Nicky, Kaylee's being sick," and the friend said that he heard no more crying after that. He also testified that all of a sudden, Callum decided that he wanted to go. On Sunday the 9th of August at 11:11 a.m, Nicola dialed 999 and asked for an ambulance, saying that her 3-year-old daughter was not breathing. She was told to perform CPR on Kaylee until the paramedics arrived. They arrived at 11:17 a.m. and said Nicola was sat on the edge of the bed but wasn't holding her daughter or doing CPR. Kaylee was lying on the floor on her back wearing her pyjamas. Nicola told the paramedics that she thought her daughter was dead. The paramedics reported there was nothing they could do. Kaylee's lips were purple and she was described as being stiff to the touch. Nicola said that she had put Kaylee to bed at 7:30 the previous evening and that she had been sick 3 times during the night. She said she had stopped checking on her at about 10:30 p.m. and let her sleep in until 10:30 a.m. as she knew she'd be tired. She said Kaylee had banged her head the day before and fell off the table. Kaylee was pronounced dead at the scene at 11:25 a.m. The medical examiner who conducted the autopsy listed a harrowing total of 68 separate external injuries to Kaylee, which ranged from cuts, bruises and abrasions to nail marks consistent with being pinched and bite marks. He said that these injuries were not as a result of normal scuffs and bumps that a toddler would be expected to have. They were inflicted on her by an adult. She had 19 fractures to the ribs, 3 fractures to her sternum and a punctured lung. She had tears to the brain and horrific internal injuries. She also had historical separate fractures to her ribs, a sternum and a lower leg fracture, which were all healing. So they've obviously been done before the assault that killed her. She had injuries from being violently assaulted. She was likely punched, kicked or even stamped on multiple times. The injuries that she suffered were likened to being hit by a car at 40 miles an hour or a fall onto concrete from a 3rd floor apartment. Such were the force of the blows. The judge presiding over the case at Birmingham Crown Court said, "No doubt, irritated by Kaylee's crying and asking to be let out of her room, it interrupted you two when you wanted to have sex. You lost your temper and were parties in the assault which cost little Kaylee Jayde her life." He went on to say to Nicola, "You could have saved her life had you called for medical help sooner. Instead, you were uncaring and cruel towards your daughter. Kaylee was the victim of a ferocious attack and was vomiting repeatedly, and you left her to die alone from fatal chest and abdominal injuries as a result of a severe beating. Unbelievably, the pair were cleared of murder. Nicola Priest was sentenced to 15 years in prison for manslaughter. Her boyfriend, Callum Redfern, was sentenced to 14 years. He showed no remorse whatsoever for what he'd done. They must both serve at least 2/3 of their sentences before they are considered for release. So, once again, that's all we have time for, and hopefully we can meet again soon to investigate more true crime. In the meantime, look after one another and stay safe. Love to you all.